Welcome. Oh, my cat. I was like, what do you have? It's like a Halloween spider. Anyway, we're at the breakers, the second stage of labor, if you're following it in that regard, which is the pushing phase. So some mothers are going to push with the waves, and some are, I highly encourage that. And really everything is being done by the uterus. We really don't need to do much until the baby is crowning as far as pushing goes. So until we can see the baby's head emerge, that is when we would start pushing. We would start really, having, and you may feel it earlier on, the need to push, but we really want to try to save our energy reserves as much as we possibly can. So when women are left alone to birth undisturbed, it's almost incredible how universally they choose to birth on one knee. So they'll have like one knee up and one knee on the ground. Often swaying with contractions, leaning forward is really helpful. In my online birth class, there is a section that takes you through each of the just some different positions you can take for pushing in labor. However, it's helpful to have those and to practice those with your partner before birth happens to see if maybe some feel best for you. When you're in birth, when you're in labor, you're going to know what you need, and you just need to really follow that. These suggestions are really great, but there's like so much, I feel like, focus on like, oh, these positions, which is awesome. And some of them can be really helpful techniques in coping with contractions and labor. Overall, it's really just about listening to your body and what she needs and how she wants to be moved. So after we move through this, quiet resting phase, the mother kind of wakes up again. She starts to feel the contractions, and if she was standing, she just instinctively, intuitively is going to move closer to the ground. And it's really beautiful to see, partners at this time. They really are present. They're there with her, kind of protecting the family, really witnessing and being there as his family is born and comes into this world. And this is what I was saying. Instinctively, you will find a position that's best for you. There is no one correct position. It's helpful to have some ideas of different positions that work well for different things, but overall, you're going to know what you need to do when you need to do it. I know it sounds crazy. Believe me, believe in you, and it will happen. So what's different about kind of more holistic birth than hospital birth? Hospital birth is very much like, okay, you reach 10 centimeters, we're going to start pushing. In holistic birth, that doesn't happen. We don't start pushing until the baby is through the birth canal. Our body is really what's supposed to be moving this baby through and helping us with this. So once we see that crowning, that's when we would start pushing. So we're using really the uterus as the tool, as the workhorse here. And sometimes you can even feel the uterus pushing, kind of like little tides of the uterus, like pushing the baby out. You don't need to be told when to push. The times when you do is when you have an epidural and you're just not feeling those contractions properly. But pushing before the head is visible can be really dangerous. It's overbearing, it's unnecessary, and just instinctually not how we're meant to be giving birth. The next stage is birth. We have the emergence of the largest part of the head is passing through the birth gate. The mother is, ecstatic and energized. She may really cry out her return, be very vocal. There's an adrenaline response that's happening. So it's really incredible how this is another very instinctual thing. She'll kind of rise up and arch her back to allow for the baby to pass through. And many times when we have undisturbed birth like this, we have the fetal ejection reflex where it's really not a lot of effort to push. The baby just kind of ejects itself with the help of the uterus. It may look chaotic and crazy. The mother, however it looks, is how it's supposed to look. If she's screaming, if she's crying, anything that's happening is perfect. It's not going to be this very, picturesque scene. It's also not necessary to pull on the baby's head. In fact, it can usually cause more problems than if the baby is just allowed to come out on its own. And many concerns I think people have is like with the umbilical cord. And there's so much cushion around umbilical cords that the likelihood of it causing, like, it's just really not a concern. They're not going to cause so much damage that I don't know where that whole thought process got really seeded within us. But umbilical cords are very rarely a problem, especially in undisturbed births. So this, once we have the birth, which is really quick and sudden, the baby just all of a sudden is here. We then have this return period, which is immediate postpartum. So the baby comes into the new world. Mother and child are both experiencing reintegration, reorganizing, kind of just like coming back into ordinary reality. That shift is starting to happen. For the baby, it's switching from neonatal breathing, so breathing with the placenta, to feeling air, listening, experiencing light and sound and cold for the first time. There's so many things that it's experiencing for the first time. The mother herself is learning to see with new eyes. She's like coming back to, and it really allows herself to return for just a moment. It's crazy how quick all of this happens and how long it feels like from the experience, but we're having this connection, really reorganizing, coming back to ourselves before connecting and reaching out with others. It's almost like this moment where we kind of celebrate ourselves. We're like, holy shit, I fucking did that. And then you're like, okay, where's the baby? It's just this really split second, but it feels like minutes. This is a really incredible moment. I keep saying that. Gosh, I need to find better words, but my brain just isn't in it. Sorry. This is an incredible moment of earthly bonding. Oxytocin is at its highest, its peak that you will ever experience is after birth. And this is a high holy state. I cannot stress the importance of this period of the process being undisturbed and unmessed with and not interrupted. It's important to protect the privacy and safety of the mother's space during labor, absolutely, but it's even more important to protect it early postpartum, when she's so vulnerable, so open, so sensitive to just all sorts of different things. And unfortunately, this is absolutely not honored in hospitals, where the baby is quickly swift away, the placenta is pulled out of the mother, the uterus is punched down. And it's just, none of it honors the really sacred moment that can happen. And I think a lot of women struggle with postpartum depression because this isn't honored, because they're not allowed to have this experience of just like a moment of peace after doing something so physically, spiritually, emotionally challenging. Once the mother's kind of come back, put herself back together a little bit, kind of come back into her body, into ordinary reality, we have this acquaintance period where the mother has picked up the baby. She still might be in the vortex, still might be kind of in this other state, but she's starting to come back to, and there's really no one way to expect her to respond. She might be speechless, might be crying. But it's another time just to limit interruptions, limit distractions, and just honor and respect this initial bonding that ideally should be happening with mother and child. Typically after 5 to 10 minutes of this kind of first acquaintance period, mother and father, kind of exploring the new child, looking and, aw, so cute, he's so beautiful, just kind of like really taking in this moment and like kind of settling in, like, oh my gosh, we're a family now. The mother might start to feel the placenta descending and ready to birth. And sometimes placentas like to hang out a little bit longer. It kind of depends, one, if you're giving water birth or not. But it's really, typically within a half hour is when the placenta would naturally disconnect and be born. So after this kind of acquaintance period, we have this really communion phase where parents, baby really come together, return to this ordinary reality. This is kind of what part of, think of like that golden first hour, which if you're in my online course, you know what that's all about. This really, again, sacred time that the baby is not only waking up to its new life, its new physical experience, but also of a really intense and beautiful bonding that happens. So mother, oh my gosh. Excuse me. So mother and baby are alert. Fathers, partners might be like processing, like really claiming their family, like, wow, my partner did this, like, this is my family, this is the ultimate moment. And baby might start to show signs of nursing, so it might show interest, moving towards the breast, making what they call like rooting. It's like little like sucky mouth, little baby bird sorts of movements. And again, this overall phase is about 30 minutes. So while it's short, it does hold important energy, and it's an important experience for a new family, and it impacts not only the development of that family unit, but also the overall well-being of the family when this phase is honored and they're allowed to just have their space connecting and communing with each other. The last phase almost to the end. Completion. So this is the birth of the placenta. It's the last phase of labor and birth process. Typically about a half hour, the placenta, and typically it's easily birthed and released. The mother has had bonding time and communication with family. She's really, kind of opened up her during birth. Like her focus is so internally. Immediately postpartum, it's just so focused on kind of coming back to, and then it's quickly shifts to the baby. But after the birth of the placenta, it's kind of like a full completion of the process, and she's more open to her outward surroundings. So she's settling in for food, rest, nursing, with her new baby, her family. The baby's alert for typically the first hour, and then they're going to go to sleep, and the baby's asleep. It's really after the baby's asleep, after this first hour, is a time to evaluate the baby, evaluate the mother, to clean up, tidy, make phone calls, and really whatever feels best for you at that time. It's a good time to rest, to sleep if you feel like you need it. Most women have this like birth high that they're on with this adrenaline still really in their system. So it's a good time, eat, talk, recharge, make the phone calls, let people know exactly what happened. But really for this first hour, we want it to be uninterrupted. And the whole vortex and kind of crossing of the veil that happens during birth is available and accessible to us for longer than just the birth process. It really depends how quickly we jump back into ordinary reality in life. So as soon as you birth the baby, if you're hopping on your phone, you're quickening that disconnect from this other realm. And that's really part of postpartum, is over the next few weeks, days, that portal is still open. You're still open to receiving. We're extremely vulnerable and just open during that phase of our life, of our experience. And there's something called the mama toto, which is the mother baby. It's establishing a relationship and a rhythm between the two bodies. As I mentioned in the first video, mother and baby are one entity, one being for those first few weeks in particular, where the baby is really depending upon the mother for everything, like even system, body system, regulation. So it's a crucial time to revisit and share parts of our journey to either our journal or other women in our circle, to share that experience and that wisdom, to make sure it gets passed on and relayed, because that's truly what's supposed to happen, and something that we've lost in breaking away from community, from like a sense of a community. But also sharing and talking more about our spiritual experiences as well. I think that's also something that we've kind of shied away from out of fear of judgment. Stop saying but particularly in the last few years, when this incredible divide has been happening, I think a majority of people are like, I'm just going to stay quiet because I don't want to offend or upset either way. By not sharing these profound experiences, we're not fulfilling our full aspect of the process, but we're also not passing on the information that is needed for future birthing people, for this next generation of people. I heard someone walking by and I got scared. It's a big dog. Just a couple more things I wanted to touch on. So yes, the time spent here depends how quickly she returns to normal reality. And I know this is going to be so individual and really dependent upon your family dynamic and what you have going on, but try to stay in this really special sacred place for as long as possible. Rest. Don't jump right back into normal life, into your phone, into housework. Just allow yourself to really absorb this moment, this really fleeting moment and vortex that you're in. And truly it goes on forever. We're constantly looking back on our births and seeing and having different perspectives that are available to us, and we're seeing different aspects of that birth that were meant to teach us something, that we were meant to know before parenting. Excuse me. Oh my God, I just picked my nose on camera. That's where we're at. And especially as our children grow, it's just like a new perspective comes up, a new lesson, a new this or that. Like there's always something new that we can be learning and experiencing. Just to briefly share my experience, when my son was born, he had swallowed some meconium, and at first he was just breathing a little bit weird. They didn't have a lot of experience at the hospital dealing with I don't think they had a NICU or anything like that. It's a small hospital. So they kind of freaked out. They overreacted in hindsight. You know, and they were doing all these tests and things, and it wasn't until one nurse was like, you know, I think he's probably fine. We just don't often watch newborns as closely, so the minor fluctuations that were happening in his oxygen levels could have been completely normal, but we just don't normally watch infants. And intuitively, I felt like too much was happening, but I also was in this headspace like, I'm not, like, they're the professionals, they should know and choose and recommend the best possible solution for this, right? So I went along with it until, I don't even remember what it was, but eventually we ended up switching providers. It was my partner's choice. He like couldn't deal with this one doctor, or something had happened, or she wasn't, I don't know. I really don't even remember. That's crazy. But there was one specific moment. I was in the nursery with him, because he was in one of those little boxes most of the time for the first week, which in hindsight really, I think, impacted my postpartum depression. And that first, I didn't get that time after birth to really connect. So anyway, I'm in this nursery with 3 nurses, and they're, you know, there's this one just like barking orders at like how I should be nursing and what I should be doing differently, and like trying to be helpful, but it was just like way too much at the time. Like, I was tired, I was stressed, I was scared, I was confused, and then you just have this person, and intuitively I felt and knew that he wasn't hungry. You know, and she just kept pushing it, and then like it was shift change, and then the next nurse was like, okay, well, let's try this, and there was just so many key points where intuitively I felt like there was something else that should be happening, but I didn't listen to that. I didn't honor that power, that inner power and intuition that I had to voice that. And that was a big lesson that, you know, like I think is challenging for new parents specifically, but like, you are now the one that's in control and calling the shots. And that's a completely new responsibility and feeling that's hard to, it takes a while to grow into that responsibility, to be like, okay, I've got this. I'm the shot caller. I'm the one who makes the decisions. I can say what I want to say now. To really own, their authority as humans, as adults in the world. I think becoming a parent really changes your perspective on adulthood and what it means to be, you know, a full adult. So that has been a spiritual exploration of birth. I didn't expect it to be this long, so there you go. But I will be linking the books that I kind of really pulled from, the website that I pulled from. A lot of it also is just from my own experience in working in the birth world, having given birth, witnessed and supported many births. So I would love to hear how this information is landing for you, if it's something that you are familiar with or really considering including in your birth plan in particular. Let me know. If you need help working with a birth plan or like formulating one, let me know as well. I would be happy to share some resources or set up just a quick, call with you. And lastly, shameless plug, if you are an expecting person and feeling overwhelmed by just all of the information that there is, check out my online course. It's self-paced, extremely affordable, and not much more than, if you were to pay for a hospital online program. And it's taking you not through pregnancy, not just through birth, but through postpartum as well. And it's focusing on you as a holistic person. So not just your medical biology, but it also is giving you mental, emotional tools, partnership tools, recipes, ebooks, all sorts of really great, awesome things that I'm super proud of. So check that course out. Yeah, I'll give it to you for a discount. I was trying to think about if I know how to set the discount. Oh my god, I'm a newbie, y'all. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and for tuning in as if I'm my own channel. But okay, I'm gonna stop talking now and go eat some snacks. Love you.